Hi, I'm Sherry and welcome back to my channel, Sherry Jones Designs. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a really cute little tunic shirt, and also it can be a dress. You can make these, use this pattern to make any length. You can use it on new fabric, you can use it on, a lot of times I find sheets or something like that at a rummage sale or garage sale or whatever, and I'll use it, you know, on the bigger pieces, but you can also use it with men's shirts on the center portion of the men's shirts. And so we're going to do that. We're going to learn how to make this, and if you don't put the pockets on, it's actually just a skirt. It can be a skirt. I've made these using my patchwork method, and these sell well in my shop, so they might for you too. So stay tuned and we'll get started. So today, what I want to show you is I keep my patterns in Ziploc bags, but I make them, I love to upcycle. This is my thing. I make them out of, the packaging paper you get when you get like an Amazon package or something like that, that brown paper. So this is that incredible, amazing pattern. Look how worn. I've had to tape this together 2 or 3 times. I use this a lot, and this is all it is. It is an angle. And it's just basically an angle cut on a fold so that I can open it and set it in the center of a garment. And I'm going to show you here how I use it and how I came about it. I want to tell you that first is when I first started using a lot of men's shirts, the sleeves, I ran out of sleeves. And so I was like, well, I can just make that shape, because I was cutting the cuffs off, and then I've just got an angled shape. Well, I found out by just making the angled shape, I can cut it narrower here. It's very flexible. And I actually have like little fold lines to know which sizes to use it on. It's like, how much of it I'm going to need. And so let's take a close look at it and I'll show you. It's so simple, but yet it does so many things. I'll show you. Okay, so basically when I go to, I have markings on it for a nightgown, add 4 inches. On this full length, I'm going to measure it out for you. So if you want one, you can make your own little pattern here. So the total length of it is 23 inches, the one I have here. And I have on it for a nightgown, add 4 inches. So if I was making a nightgown, I will take a flannel shirt, cut it off just under the sleeves, and then I usually just add these wedge pieces down to about here and then a border. That's how easy it is. So I keep things simple because when you're trying to sew and make a living at it, you can't have 50 pieces unless that's why I don't do a lot of my patchworks in my stores, because they're very time consuming. Okay, so we have 23 inches down. Across the bottom here, you will measure out 12 inches. And across the top, you would measure out 7 inches and then just draw like this between the two. And you will do that on a fold. And the reason you want it on a fold is so that when you have, let me grab a shirt here. Let's say I wanted to use the center of this shirt for one of my pieces. Now, this whole length is dress, okay? So I probably will come down here somewhere, 32-inch length. See, I have plenty of room in this size of shirt. So I have plenty of room for the dress. But by having the center here, I can put it on this button and this button, pin it on, and then I have my pattern. And that allows me to choose, because it's very hard to fold a shirt in half and do it with the buttons. You're not going to get an exact fold. And this allows me to cut my shape out by having it where I can fold it. Now, if I've got a piece of fabric, I can just lay it on the fold of a fabric. I can fold the fabric over and just lay this on the fold of the fabric, and then clip it and cut my shape out. And then let me show you, in a garment, this piece, and we're going to make one of these in the video. This is this piece and this one, and then I cut a double, which is the middle. So you will need, if you're going to follow this pattern to make one of these, and so you can see on this one here that I used somewhere, probably the 34-inch one. I did discover, and as we go along, that to use a 1/2-inch elastic, I started with 3/4, but it's just too tight. It doesn't give enough to let you move or layer. So I use 1/2-inch elastic, and then you will need either 2 shirts, you know, for these pieces, because this is this could be the front and the back of a shirt, and this could be the front and the back of a shirt. You either need 2 shirts, or you will need enough to make 2 on a fold of these. So, you know, because this would be one cut out. So you have to have enough to cut out 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Okay? So let's get started. We're going to pick some fabrics, and I'm going to show you how I make the perfect tank top. Okay, so I found what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this shirt that's got kind of a brown burgundy to it. And then I'm going to use this vintage sheet. And we're going to use, I'm going to do the outside edges in the brown, and then the inside piece with this. I'll probably find a white or something for our ruffle, or not ruffle, but our border at the bottom and our straps. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do, of course, is to dissect our shirt. As soon as I find my scissors. And you're going to cut the shirt apart just like I do in the other videos. And I'm going to remove the collars. This one still has a little tag on it. We got to get rid of that. You know, this is a great way to make a summer tank top or little dress. This would be great for kids too. You could make this for, you know, out of shirts that maybe the sleeves got ruined even, you know. It's a great way to upcycle them. Okay. And now you're actually going to button it back up. You're going to go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do now is determine how wide we need this top piece to be here. And because, see, there's a lot of gathering going on. So if you don't want it as gathered, you won't want to make it super, super wide. My suggestion would be, if you're going to make it for yourself, is to measure yourself right here up above your bust line, and then make sure you add enough that has some gathering. If you want it super gathered, you can even do as much as 2 times. I know most, like when they do the ruffly curtains, they're like 2.5 times. So you want to think about it, you know, how much fluff you want. If you want a really, really fluffy one, then you add more. If you want less, Just make sure it's enough to get into, and to, if you're going to layer, that you leave some room for layering, because it won't look like how it's got the puckering here if you don't leave enough fabric. Like if I didn't leave enough fabric, it would look more like this, which that's fine if that's what you want, because it has the angle, it will flow just fine. I will also use this pattern when I do the denim top. I'll do a denim strap around here, and maybe not even gather, just cut my angles and sew them together like a sleeve. You know, when you use sleeves, they have a slight gathering. Let me grab one here. Like, you know, when you, a sleeve, blind you, a sleeve here will have slight gathering. So if you want to mimic a sleeve, you want to have just at least a little bit of gathering. That's it. I'm going to decide what I'm going to make this one now. Okay, so when I'm doing the front, I think I'm going to use it just as it is. My pattern just as it is. Usually I'm doing 2x, 3x. I add about 1 inch to this pattern. Because you think about it, when you spread it out, if this is 7, I've got 14 times 4. That's how big of an area I have all the way around. And that's how you figure it out. Because you're going to have, right, when you open this up, you will have 4 of these. So you can measure, let's say you want your bust to be a total, you don't want it any bigger than 40 inches, right? Then you only want a width, total width of 10 inches across here. So you would fold it, mark it or cut it permanently, if it's just for you, at 5 inches instead of 7. So yours would be back here. And then you say, okay, that's perfect. And then you just have this little pattern you can use over and over. Okay, so I'm going to use this as it is. And I'm going to make mine 30. See, I put marks on here. Halter top, you know, different things. But this is for shirts I put. Is it 34 inches? Because I also turn it under some. So let's say you wanted your shirt to be 28 inches. You got to leave 1 inch for here. And then let's say you're going to add a band of 4 inches. You would deduct that, and then you'd know how tall to make it. See, when I say 34 inches, it's not 34 inches all the way. Oops, hold on. Because I've got 8-inch straps. You know, 7 or 8 inch straps. I will have turned it under 1 inch. And I will have added probably a 6-inch band. So, you know, you can just put it here, take a yardstick or tape and put it here and go, okay, I've got my straps. I know I want it to come down to 20 inches or 28 inches total, but I want a 6-inch border, back it up, and then you'd only cut that piece. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just replay it, rewind, play me back a few times and until you get it. But you need a 1 inch extra on top for your elastic, because you will sew your elastic to it and fold it like this, the fabric. So when you cut yours, you need to count about 7 3/4 or so, or 8 inches for your strap. And then however long, minus if you're doing a band. That's how you decide your length. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure our shirt is laying flat. Nice and flat. Don't worry about the pocket. You can just sew it shut. And then we're going to take our pattern. And, you know, by this time you would know how wide you're cutting it. And you're going to lay it, I usually, you know, somewhere where, I usually go below here somewhere about right here. It's not particular, as long as it fits everywhere. And then what I do is I just pin it on at the top and bottom. Not every corner. You can every corner. You know, you can pin every corner, so you make sure you get up to the corner. Okay. Another thing, nice thing to make patterns out of is poster board. Poster board is nice if you got a place to keep them. You can't fold them up too well. So then I'm just going to cut this out. Because remember, when you're figuring your measurements too, you will have some seam allowance come out. If you sew a generous one, you might have an inch come out of your measurements. So keep that in mind as well. And notice I'm not being real particular, and there's a reason why I don't fuss over a lot of the stuff. Is my serger cleans it up. I'm going to show you how the method you'd use with the serger and then without it. I'm not super particular as long as I get the generalized concept. That's the reason I like sewing this way, because it isn't fussy. So basically, we have angled pieces here. One of the first things I do is I take the button piece. This is optional, but I don't really want those buttons gapping or coming apart on my customer or myself. So I will, with a straight stitch, just stitch the button parts closed. And now you will take an angled piece. You see the angle? You're going to keep the narrow point to the top on every one of these. And what you're going to do is you can pin them ahead of time or at the machine, or just match them up. I just match them up. You know, you could, if you wanted to, you could pin them, or you could clip them like that. And what I do is I serge the edge of each one. But for this video, because most of you guys won't have a serger, is really fast also. So if you're doing it for Etsy, you might want to consider getting a serger at some point. So I'll just straight stitch it. And I'm just going to match it and sew it all the way down. And I'm just letting my foot follow so it's about a 1/4 inch seam. Just letting it go along, making sure I'm getting both pieces. See? If there's a little extra there, it doesn't matter. Just match them up. Make sure it's laying flat. And like this, it's fine. This garment is very forgiving. Just go straight. Make sure you get it. And I backstitch. Because we're going to double reinforce the seam. I'm going to flip this now. You know, when I make garments for my customers, I want them to be able to throw this in the wash machine. Like, work in it, play in it. I want it to take some abuse. So I'm going to fold that one way or the other, doesn't matter. I just usually decide, I usually pick the darker side so that you can see the zigzag better, because I think it's cute. And so I'll do a zigzag and have that seam on that side. And I can feel if it's on this side, the seam folded on that side. And I'm going to zigzag it all the way down. Even if I serge it, I still zigzag. The serger can save time, but it also uses a lot more thread, so this way is also quite good. got one piece put together on that. Now we're going to go, and the biggest, make sure you got your widest part. Make sure you look at it. I have sewn these on upside down, been sleepy. Make sure the wide part's to the bottom, and you'll have right sides together. Sew them together. You see, it's not too exacting. Okay, now I've got to turn it inside out so I can sew down this one. I like to just shove the whole thing under till you find like this. That way I don't have the big bulk in front of me. Make sure I don't have a thread there. And we're going to zigzag down this one. Same. The reason I love my serger, and it is not hard to thread, this one isn't, some of them maybe, but basically it tells you, I'll show you something real quick here about a serger. When you flip open the door, it tells you which thread, like the orange, you follow the orange, the pink, you follow the pink. It tells you which one to do first. Say 1, 2, like they'll just tell you. It's not hard at all to follow, but some of them may be. But this particular brother, I think is very easy to use. I haven't figured out all of its goodness yet, but it's fast. It's noisy too. And I love the neat, clean edge it gives me. When you come to these corners, if they're uneven, just round them. If you're going to do a zigzag and they're uneven, you can just trim them with your scissors before you sew them. They're usually pretty close. Sometimes though I cut wonky and they're off. Like this one is a good example. And you can actually just do that. Because it's got so much gathering, you won't even notice it in the finished product. So now you should have something that looks like that. We've got all of our angled pieces, and we will now be putting this garment. I mean, you could have it, if you had two shirts, you will have buttons down the middle, which is cute. But for this one, I want the dark to the outside. So, mine will look like that. And so what we're going to do now is you're going to put a little mark or a pin where the sides are at. And we're going to do this because when we put our elastic in, I want a smaller one, that one doesn't leave holes as bad. Ow, I just poked myself. So you're going to want to mark your ends. Of course, this one I know where it's at. It's the buttons, but I'll go ahead and put one in just to make me feel good. Probably poke myself on it again. And then you're going to want to mark your middles, because we're going to do the same thing to our elastic. So we get it that we want our ruffle. I'm going to use a sewn in place elastic. It doesn't roll. It just looks nicer, looks neater and cleaner. You could use chalk to mark this. I usually don't. The reason I don't is I do not my fabric's all pre-washed, so I don't wash it again before I ship, so I don't want marks all over. Okay. So okay, I'm gonna go 40 inches. Here's 36, and then 4 more. I'm gonna cut mine at 40. Because when I put it in, it will also be a little bit bigger. So, and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so now we take our elastic. Make sure it's laying flat. And then you're going to take those 2 flat ends. You don't want it twisted. Like, you don't want to go like this and twist it. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew these 2 pieces together. Okay, and the way I do that, I mean, you can of course do it any way to get it together, but you're going to want to sew it firm enough so when you pull on it, I usually sew a little square or something. You want it firm enough, you don't want to pull apart when you start putting it in. Okay. And this is how you know that you did a good job. Is when you pull it out, there will be no twisting in it. So if there was twisting, just cut it. You might have to get a new piece or something. But okay, so now we got that done. Now you're going to take from where you put it together. You're going to go. On this one, I do use my chalk. You could use a pin. You're going to go to the halfway point this way, and you're going to mark it. And then you're going to pull it, meet those 2 halfway points, and you have your other 2 halfway points. Okay? And you're going to mark those. As long as it's close, we're good. Alrighty, now you're going to get your, and I usually try to, you're going to get your garment, and I usually try to put this as my back side. It doesn't matter too much on this because it's not super thick. And then you're going to pin it where your pins were at. You're going to pull each pin and just pin it in that spot into your elastic like that. So here's my next one. It's going to go at my next halfway point. You know, depending on what size I'm making, that's the size, you know, of the elastic I will choose. Because you do want it to stretch somewhat, so like a 40-inch elastic is going to fit somebody bigger. So than that, like, you know, 43 or 44 comfortably. This is just 1/2 inch. It stretches easy. Another thing you can use instead of elastic, and I've done this before, is you make my mind escapes, but you go like this and you make a little, you know, where you would normally, a casing. There's the word. Make a casing, and you put a tie string in there, and that's fun. Okay, so same thing. Make sure you're not twisting your elastic. I'm looking for my next mark. Here it is, and that will go on this one. And then we'll be able to stretch between those 2 points, and okay, so now we have our elastic all pinned in. And this goes really fast. If you've done it quite a few times, you can do this fairly quickly. So with your machine on a straight stitch, you're going to start at one of the points. Maybe I'll start at this one, which was the back. Pull your thread back, and you are going to make sure you get your needle in there before you pull your pin, okay? And then you're going to grab it where your second one was. Don't poke yourself. But you're going to make sure you can see this. But oh, hit my stand. My chair won't let me scoot back far enough. But you're going to stretch it to fit. Okay, I need to cut those or my machine will eat it. You're going to stretch it to fit and sew it in like that. So if your machine is struggling, sometimes if it's real long, I'll stretch it, grab it halfway, and then I only have that far to stretch it. And then I grab sometimes back here to make sure that my machine has no problem coming forward. And I just follow that edge. If you like a firmer top up here, you can use 3/4 or 1-inch elastics. I did that for a long, long time. Okay, now to take this next one out, you're just going to grab it and hold it till you get there. And now I'll make sure my needle's down before I do my next stretch. I'm going to pull till it fits, grab it halfway, and then sew that part in. Like that. It's not all the way in. Before I pull again, I'm going to make sure my needle's down so I don't pull it out from under there. And then make my next stretch. And you can be off a little bit and it'll be alright. Okay, my needle's coming out. Let me get that out of there. And let's say I accidentally did that. Like, oh no. You can still stretch it all the way to where that one was. It's like I can still get that stretch exactly. The thing is, you definitely just don't run off the elastic. You want the elastic sewn in. And our last little piece here. Another thing I've done is both an elastic and a string, because it gives you the option. Also, sometimes I think about if your elastic was to go bad, you know how elastic does, then you'd have that string as a backup to tie it. Okay, so we have the first part of it in. Make sure I got all my strings. So now the next part you're going to do is you're going to just fold it over. Now you can make it narrow like that, or I was looking down to see which one I did here, or you can go a little bit further. I'm going to go a little bit further and I'll show you why. I'm going to just, you can put a mark on your machine if you want to, because I'm going to sew up above it too, and it makes it kind of have a ripple effect. I'll show you here. Once you get it started, just like that. Same thing. And they're not going to meet exactly, and I'll show you how to deal with that. Because you have angles, and you just turned it over so you know that one side's going to be shorter. I'll show you a cheek to get past that, is you just gather it there and just make it meet back up again. Just put a little bit of gather. It's going to be gathered anyways. You'll never see it. So there's two ways to finish our elastic. You could leave it like this. It's got a very dreamy sort of bubbly look. That's how this one is. Or you could sew along the top and have this sort of crisp look. And I'm going to do that on this one. We're going to kind of a little crisp edge to it. And how you do that is you stretch it. Oops. Make sure your needle's down first. But you stretch it as you're sewing, and you want to just miss your elastic. And you're going to do that all the way around your garment. So this is what we have now, and I want to show you, I cut that 40 inches, and because the gathering tends to push the elastic out, what we actually have up here is 46. So you want to keep that in mind when you're making your garment, that your elastic for the top, if you're using a 1/2 inch, you might want to, cut it considerably short. And for the bust, of course, we're going to have a nice roomy bust line in this. Let me see what that would actually be. And I do it just flat, but there's actually more room because it puffs out. So we've got a 61 or 62 inch bust. So lots and lots of room. And all right, so now we need to do pockets. I want to show you how cute it is if you have 2 button shirts you've used. Look how cute that is down the front. If you've got buttons on the side, buttons down the front, it is really, really, really cute. Let's talk about different ways that we could finish this garment. If you wanted a short, like I've got the shorter shirt, you could actually put a little frill of lace or something and actually be done right here. On my other garment, I did 2 layers. I did denim at the bottom. You could do, because I had denim on the sides. You could, the sleeves we cut off, could be used as pieces to create straps from. You could actually take pieces of the sleeves and use them down here. Let's see here, and I do have this piece here. You could use, for the straps, you could use men's ties for your straps. You could use collars like this for your strap. One thing I used frequently was I would offset, like this has the cream in it. I would just use a cream colored sheet or something like that and do the tops and the bottoms with that. So there are many different things that you can do to this garment, and I want to show you how flexible this pattern is. If you didn't gather it and you pinned it and you hand gathered it, you could put it, oops, I just threw that on the floor. Let me see if I can show something here really quick. Well, this doesn't really go, but let me grab it. You could cut off a shirt. Let's say you had this shirt and you cut it off. I do this very frequently. I'll do like a denim band. And then imagine the elastic is not here. Then you attach your skirt thing to it, and then you do your denim band. And that one sells very, very well. This is very easy to do. You can make your own. It's basically a sleeve in a way you've made your own size. You can make your own size of sleeve. And so it's really flexible, and it flows nice because it's got angles. So I hope that gives you some ideas, some creative ideas that you can use bits and pieces for. I do, a lot of times I'll do a patchwork piece, and then I'll put my pattern on the patchwork piece, and just like, a piece of fabric, and cut it out, and then sew those patchwork pieces together. So I get the best of both worlds. I still have my patchwork is square, but yet with me angling it, I get flow to the garment. So I hope that helps somebody out there. So I'm going to decide what I want to use for my top pieces. I think I may just use more of this for the top and the bottom, but I'm going to look at it and I'll let you know. I'll show you what I decided. Okay, I'm going to use for for ease of and just simplicity of pattern, I'm going to use this for my border. Let me see here. Get my scissors. And I'm going to do about a 6-inch border. So what you'll do is, if you're going to use jeans or whatever, you'll just cut out a 6-inch border. And I'm not super particular even about which way the fabric grain rolls or anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Somewhere here. And how I usually do borders is I'll start my cut when I decide how wide I want it. And then I fold it, and that gives me something to follow for the next one. And so on. It does kind of need a straight edge along the way. So I'll get this border cut, and I'll show you what I do to it to put it on. Okay, I'm also going to go ahead and cut out my pockets and my straps while I'm here. And basically, the straps need to be at least 7.5 to 8 inches. And you want to gonna overlap. At least I leave 1.5 inches so overlap. So you're talking at least a 20-inch strap. And for this, sometimes it's easier for me to use my straight ruler. My quilting ruler, but you don't have to. I'm not a quilter, really, so I'm not too good at the old quilting techniques, but I'm going to get me... I like using the straight edge because it makes putting the straps together so much easier. And sometimes I even will use that on my pockets. And one of the ways I like to make my straps is to just, they'll just be folded over and about this wide. I try to make them wide enough they would hide a bra strap. So we're talking, what, 3 inches? Let's see here. And your straps can be whatever you want them to be. They can be just strips of denim. You could have a denim border. Or, I'm trying to see what I'm making here, about 3.5 it looks like. This one. So that's why I like upcycling, because it is whatever you can imagine. Let's see, I think that would be good enough. Right there. Looks lovely. Oh, don't move on me, ruler. And one of the things I like to do with my pockets, what a mess. I need to do something with the mess. Is I like to take the same width. A lot of times I'll have a border left over. And so I will take this border and cut it the width of my pocket and just sew a band across the top of something else. So we'll probably go ahead and cut us a couple of pockets. All my pieces here. If you were to, your pockets could be denim jean pockets. They could be anything, You could really make them quite anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I usually make them, you can make them any size you want. I'm just going to estimate them out. And I'll just Go ahead and make them extra tall in case I decide not to do the band. Because if I'm not going to do the band, what I'll do is I'll fold it over. This would be a little tall, but like I could even have a hem edge, fold it over, stitch it, and then I've got a double layer for a button. You know, that's another thing that I do. Okay, now I got plenty here. I'll probably cut these down, but I got all my pieces cut. I can put this up and we can put it together. Okay, so now we're gonna do our bottom border, and you can do this different ways. I mean, if you wanted a rustic look, you could just sew it on. Let me show you here. Let's see, which side is my back side? I usually start somewhere on a corner. And what you would do, I'll show you different options. And then what I do, since I have a serger, I do it differently. But if you liked a raw edge, let's say you had a denim piece, you just lay it on, sew your border on. If you wanted to have a finished edge, you could sew it on like this, turn it over, and then top stitch it, and that would look a lot like this border. So I'm going to, because I have the serger and I like the way it looks, I'm going to serge my edges and then sew it on. So I usually I go over in the serger, I connect my pieces, and the reason I use a serger is it just makes it easier for the customer to wash the garment. And so I will sew my pieces together, and once I get them all sewn together, then I serge all my edges. Okay, so we are in the designing, what I call the designing phase. And I think because I don't know if it's just the way I like to see things, but I like to see a finished little border. I thought a little brown rickrack would be really cute along the bottom of this, so I'm going to do that. And then on my pockets, which I don't have done yet, my straps are like this. And they will each have a big brown button, big round button on them. They'll be up here. Haven't done my pockets yet, but I think I want some contrast even in my pockets. They will sit somewhere here, and I think I'm gonna do some brown or put some brown on them or make them brown. I haven't decided yet, so I'll keep at it and we'll see how it's going along. Okay, so here's what we have. I decided to do some cute little poofy pockets, and I decided to put a couple little black buttons. And then so all we need to do now is put our back straps on. And if you're making this for yourself, you might have better luck putting the back ones on first, trying it on, and then pulling the straps over till you get the right length. For my sewing, I have pretty much learned what works, and it's usually about 8 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right here. So I'll just do 8 inches, and I just match them the other ones, and I'll put them on the inside. And another thing I do is I always leave them a little bit longer. So if the person who buys this needs more room, they can have someone lengthen that. As I try to think of those things, you know, everybody's built different. Everybody has different needs. And to make garments that work for people, that's one of the things I try to think about. What is this person maybe going to need here? So, and if you're going to sell, you decide to sell, you know, maybe this will help you, you know, happy customers or returning customers, right? So it's okay. I'm going to get these sewed on, and I think I'm going to sew the rickrack on the bottom, and we actually should be done. And we'll show you what we have. Alright guys, here it is. It's too big for me, but of course we knew that. But if you're smaller size, I'm between a medium and a large, and I'm only 5 foot high. So if you're taller, it'll hit you in a different place in the knees. This is what it looks like. And it's so comfortable. And I really love the vintage fabric with the little rickrack on it. I think that is so sweet. So that is how it turned out. I hope you guys get some good out of this tutorial. I hope it blesses you. If it does, please give me a like, and so please subscribe and share this if you can. It really helps me out, and I appreciate everything you guys do. And comment if you have any comments about what you would have done if you were making this. Would have you done a ruffle? Would have you done denim? You know, think about, you know, I love to hear what everybody else would have done. So thank you so much guys for watching my videos, and until next time, happy sewing.